My fellow collectors, the world is upside down. Nothing makes sense. All it takes is a quick look out your window or scroll through your social apps to know that life is not the way that it once was. Now, of course, I'm not intentionally trying to be negative or sound alarmist in nature by any means, but the reality is that the real world problems and struggles bleed into our collecting lives. By the time you're watching this video, I'll be on some island in the Caribbean celebrating 5 years of marriage with my wife. Looking back, I can confidently say that not only is the world vastly different than it once was just 5 short years ago, but the collecting game has changed drastically too. Did you know we actually got married the day that Avengers Endgame came out, and the following months would come to see an explosion of new collectors onto the scene wanting a piece of that once-in-a-lifetime cinematic moment. But mix in a global pandemic, box office bombs, tanking economies leading to lower wages and loss of jobs and overall apathy towards anything other than just getting by, and well, you have the current state of collecting. Hang tight, because you'll want to hear this, and I promise, it's not all bad. Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the channel for a look at the current state of collecting. As I said, I do not intend for this video to be negative. Well, I know firsthand that negativity does yield a lot of clicks. No, we're of course going to address some realities, but at the same time, I'm going to present to you some potential signs for optimism. But let's go ahead and rip the band-aid off, shall we? Collecting, as we used to know it, is going the way of the dinosaurs, and as Vision so eloquently put it in the Age of Ultron.
But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
We actually shouldn't expect things to continue as always or remain status quo. There's no growth in that. So I'm going to present to you 3 massive changes to the collecting world and why that's actually a good thing. And speaking of growth, if you're wanting to help this channel and you like what you hear but you've not yet subscribed, then please go ahead and do so. Throw me your support. Give me a presumptive like on this video and continue to check me out on all my other social platforms listed below for all-around good content. I would certainly appreciate it if you did. So now, as I said, 3 major changes to the collecting world and why that actually is a good thing, starting with number 1. And here it is. The COVID collector is going extinct. Now I know, I get a lot of flack sometimes on this channel for only looking at Western markets, but the reality of the matter is that I live here in the United States, so I see a lot of what's going on and can speak to my own little bubble right here. Sideshow, where I get my figures, is the North American distributor, so yeah, I do have a little bit of interest in that. If you live in another market, specifically the Asian market, you of course have more intel into business dealings over there. With that being said, I can speak specifically to how COVID stimulus money in the United States specifically birthed an entire movement of collectors that were simply around for convenience. A little controversial, I know, but I know worldwide that several other countries took care of their citizens as well in different ways, and I will say I'm not 100% sure whether stimulus money was a part of the package or not, but regardless, worldwide, everyone was sitting at home with nothing to do. In the year following Endgame, when you were locked in your house with nothing to do, what else do you do besides look at stuff on YouTube and watch TV and different types of movies? There are several channels out there that exploded because people were sitting at home and wanted to watch something to pass the time. In the summer of 2020, Avengers Endgame had been out for a year and brought in almost $3 billion, and because of that cultural juggernaut, people with time and money wanted to reminisce. So what am I getting at, you ask? Well, it's this. People got into this hobby with money they weren't used to having, and time they no longer have since things have returned to normal somewhat. Worldwide businesses saw spikes in traffic and sales and did what everyone was doing at the time and adapted to it. That means thousands and thousands of additional pieces of product were created to satisfy an artificial market. First-time Hot Toys buyers would get their new Captain America and Thor figure in and immediately start looking for more because, let's be honest, these things are highly addictive. But now, flash forward 4 years, and we're all in different phases of life. Posts like this are far more frequent than not within our collecting groups. Check this out. Collecting hasn't brought me joy in a while, and I keep trying to fight it, but I finally made the decision to get out. Look, I see the numbers on people's channels, including mine. I see the for sales posts, and frankly, I know a lot of people are no longer having fun. This isn't a negative or calling you a bad name, but perhaps you yourself got into collecting during the pandemic era and you were just now starting to realize that, and maybe it wasn't for you. Maybe you've been a lifelong collector, but have recently started to take inventory on what's important in life and just want to focus on family rather than figures. Maybe you're just a long-time lurker that never really wanted to collect at all, but wanted to watch from the sidelines because, hey, cool figures. But now you may have seen something else and you say, hey, look at that. That is now cool. Regardless of your reasoning, it doesn't matter as long as you're happy at the end of the day. But I say all that to say this, and that is the era of COVID collecting, if you want to call it that, and that bubble has officially burst. And I don't think we're ever going back to it anytime soon. The second change that I want to talk about is in direct response to the first one, and that is exclusives will be what heals the market and encourages collectors. As I said, before companies looked at the booming business and overproduced figures because at the time they were selling. But all good things must come to an end, and I'm thankful that a lot of companies have seen that the overproduction and oversaturation of the market has been a bad thing for the average collector, and they're doing something about it. I swear, if I had a nickel for every time I said that this hobby is not meant for investing and making money, well, I probably could have paid off my house by now, but no one buys a collectible with the hope of it losing value. But you may be saying, collect what you want, collect for fun, that's what matters. Yeah, I get that, but when we are paying these prices that we are and have been with these figures, seeing them go for literally fractions for what they once sold for at retail is depressing. There's no way around that, because at the end of the day, you start double guessing yourself and thinking, maybe I should hold out or even not collect at all, because if something happens and I need to sell this, I'm going to be losing so much money. There's a lot of scenarios there to unpack for sure, but with these exclusives, I think the game has changed. So we know that numbered exclusives are happening, and we're seeing a lot more of them popping up almost monthly, it seems. Figures that usually sat around forever on pre-order are going to waitlist much sooner, and even your chance of those waitlists converting are getting slimmer and slimmer. Looking at you, Artisan Anakin, because there's less product at the end of the day. Let me say once again, this is a good thing. Am I happy that some people will have to pay more than retail to secure figures that they want in their collection? Of course not. That may be me on some. But for every figure that someone missed out on, there's going to be another collector that is relieved that the value of the piece that they have is not worth pennies on the dollar. Whoever would have thought that Crosshair from the Bad Batch would be going for Darkside Anakin prices? Crazy, right? But exclusives and limited releases are going to give collectors encouragement to keep collecting. It's going to cause collectors to pause and really evaluate if the piece they want to add next is really worth it, and actually pre-order it before it actually hits shelves for once. The way that we collect is always evolving, and the day of overstock, overproduced, and buy one get one figures is over. And I say, bring that on, because having more figures to chase is a lot more fun than sitting on something that you can't get rid of. And that's a fact.
You're unbearably naive.
Well, I was born yesterday.
And finally, we arrive at our final major change to the state of collecting, and that is, collecting in general will become a much more niche hobby and not a mainstream phenomenon as it once was. As I reiterate for the 100th time, during the pandemic era, there was nothing to do. So a lot of people who would not necessarily be into the collecting hobby found something to pass the time. But now there is more to do. People are moving on, and that is okay. With the current climate in the world, collectors and future collectors need to truly weigh all their options much more often than we used to. In this world of short-form content, the TikTok era, and even our rapidly changing news cycle, people lose interest quickly, and it's on to the next thing for a lot of people. And that's fine. When I was growing up, it was rare for someone to walk around with a Star Wars t-shirt on, and most likely, you even got made fun of. Trust me, I had a lot of weird looks when I was rocking my wind pants and Yoda t-shirt back in 6th grade, but not too long ago, and even still to a degree, everyone was proud to show their devotion to being a nerd. It was accepted. But now, it's put your money where your mouth is. And with less money going around these days, I think there's going to be a lot fewer people that are wanting to put their hard-earned money into collectibles on a shelf, instead of putting their money towards moments and memories. If you made it this far and you've actually watched this video, then obviously you have some interest still in this hobby. But if you feel comfortable and are willing to share where you fall on this spectrum today, I would certainly like to know. What is your current state of collecting? And what do you think about my predictions? And what do you think is going to be happening as changes move forward? As I've said, there's no judgment at all, and everyone's journey is different. And at the end of the day, you just need to do what's best for you. And from human being to human being, I totally dig that and support it. Well, that's going to do it for us here today. If you like what you've heard, of course, make sure that you go ahead and give me a like on this video if you haven't already. And if I've not done enough yet to earn your subscription, then please let me know. What more do I need to be doing? Down in the comments below. Engaging with this community is one of my favorite things that I do, and I love seeing every comment, positive or negative, and I respond to every single one of them. However, if I'm still on my vacation, I will get to you when I get back. I promise. So, until then, happy collecting, and I'll be seeing you right back here in our next video.